Derek McInnes confirmed as a replacement for Danny Rowe. I mean, this seems like we've been speaking about this potential appointment, not just for days, but for years. I mean, he's been the guy who's been perennially linked with Rangers. He's now finally here. He's back at the club where he served for 5 years as a player. What's your take on it, Scott? Is it the right appointment for Rangers at this particular time?
100%. Andy, I think you know my thoughts on it. I've been parting the Derek McInnes drum for a good few years now in terms of being Rangers manager. I think, don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think this could be the best decision the club have made in a long time. I think he's made to be Rangers manager. You talk about people that understand the club, understand Scottish football, knows what it means, knows what a successful Rangers player looks like and what's required. Derek McInnes knows all of that. He was part of the 9-0 team, obviously one of the greatest kind of eras in the club's history. He grew up a Rangers fan, knows the club inside out. I just think that Rangers have been crying out for this kind of appointment for a while. They've tried different things. Russell Martin, Danny Rowe, even before that, Philippe Clement. When I think the answer was basically staring them in the face. And finally, now this summer, maybe circumstances have dictated a wee bit with Salzburg coming in for Danny Rowe, but I think the answer was staring them in the face, and finally Rangers have actually made the right choice. I know. Listen, there's no guarantees in football. We know that. Derek McInnes is going to work hard to bring success back to Rangers. He'll need to trust the board and the people in charge to give him the tools and get the right players in. But in terms of a character, a personality, a mentality of what's required to be a Rangers manager, and I say Rangers manager because that's what he is. He's no head coach. He's a manager, which I think is a big thing. I don't think there was a better candidate, and I fully expect him. Might take every manager, every job. I suppose it will take a wee while to kind of get things settled, but I would expect Rangers to be at the very least challenging for titles and trophies again next season with Derek McInnes in charge.
I wrote a piece this week for the paper based around. I've heard this kind of notion from some people maybe at Hearts going that obviously the sort of marriage between Derek McInnes and Jamestown wasn't a natural fit. They're going to want somebody who maybe plays a bit more of a progressive style, who's maybe a bit more inclined to trust the data-driven analytics that they obviously specialise in. McInnes being, for want of a better phrase, more of an old school manager, that they weren't natural bedfellows in that sense. But what I think is clear is, okay, he might not have been the manager that Hearts were going to need going forward the more that they went down this Jamestown route. I think right now he's exactly the manager that Rangers need. And I've spoken to so many ex-teammates of them, guys that played for the club, but they all agree just what you're saying there. This, it might seem a sort of flippant distinction to make, but the head coach manager thing is crucial because I don't think just being a guy who's good on the training ground, who's good at the side of a pitch, who's good in an analysis room is what the job of being a Rangers manager or a Celtic manager for that matter as well. I don't think that covers it. I think there's so much more to it. You have to be a leader. You have to be a figurehead, somebody that the fans can look to can seek inspiration and motivation and even faith and trust and guidance from at times. And I think that is what Derek McInnes will bring. I mean, when you look at, I think you only have to look at his performance this year at Hearts. I mean, okay, they did magnificently well. They were aided by a couple of, rough diamonds that they plucked out. You think of like Cazaridis, you think of Claudio Braga. But at the end of the day, that team that he had this season was built on guys who'd either been in Scotland before or who'd been at the club.
Yeah.
And who most people had written off as being not good enough, and he turned these guys into a team that were, 3 minutes away from winning a title. Is that how you see it too?
100%. Rangers need a manager, as you say, need a figurehead. How many times have we sat in press conferences over the last few years, and then you go back to your office or your desk and see fans moaning about stuff that the coach has said, or something's not come across the right way, or Derek McInnes will say all the right things as Rangers manager. No, he learnt for the best in that regard. In terms of Walter Smith, who was his mentor. The greatest, one of, if not the greatest Rangers manager of all time. Remember, Walter Smith wanted McInnes in this job for a long time as well. He would have been his pick, which I think tells you everything. So no, he will be the figurehead. He will lead. He will effectively run the club. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to get involved in stuff away for football, but in terms of the football decisions at the club, Derek McInnes will be in sole charge. And look, we know, I think it was announced today, or word came out today, but Stig Inga Bjorn will be getting a role, a kind of full-time role at the club. Obviously, you've got Dan Purdy there in recruitment. And these guys have done a decent job so far, but Derek McInnes will identify clear targets for Rangers, and he will identify them because it'll be players that he feels have the characteristics to be able to play for Rangers, not just in a physical sense, but in a mentality sense as well. And it will be the responsibility of the recruitment department and the board to go and get these players. So Rangers need to trust them. Rangers have been through a lot of managers in recent years. I think finally they've got the right guy who can bring long-term success, short-term and long-term success to Rangers. Another thing about Derek McInnes, Andy, and I've said this for a few years, it's maybe something people don't think about, but you look at the recent appointments. I'm going right back to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Michael Beale, Philippe Clement, Russell Martin, Danny Rowe. Those 5 guys, for me, all good coaches or managers in their own right, not taking anything away from them. But they would have all come into the Rangers job, guaranteed come into the Rangers job, seeing that as a stepping stone to something bigger, something else. Whether it be the English Premier League, whether another top 5 leagues in Europe. This Rangers job is the pinnacle for Derek McInnes as a Rangers man, as a Rangers supporter. He's not going to go anywhere. He will see this as the pinnacle of his career. And I think in the future he might go on to manage Scotland one day, which will be a huge honour for him. And I think he spoke about that in the past as something he wants to do. But for now, at his age and the stages in his career, this is the pinnacle. And I think if Derek McInnes has immediate success or short-term success at Rangers, say he was to go and win a league or a double or maybe even more this in his first season, there wouldn't be any danger of all clubs might come in for him. If Danny Rowe goes and wins a league or a double, all the chat would have been about, this guy's got eyes on him for Europe or whatever. Big clubs looking up. I just don't think that will happen with Derek McInnes. That's not a slight on him. It's just because this job is the pinnacle for him, and I think that's what Rangers need, a guy who's going to be there for the short and long term and bring real stability, real organisation, a proper winning mentality that he obviously had for his playing days.